Hello, my hojos, and welcome back to the best series on YouTube, making the Shonen Jump to Shoujo. That's right, I just got word from Mr. YouTube himself right before filming. He told me that it has been confirmed that making the Shonen Jump to Shoujo is now canonically the best series that YouTube has to offer. Man, this site really went downhill when Colleen started uploading. That's right, I am Colleen. Ugh, somehow I always forget that now. For those who are uninitiated, Making the Shonen Jump to Shoujo is a series I do where I recommend a shoujo or josei manga that is similar to an already popular shonen or seinen series. It doesn't strictly have to be shonen to shoujo, it could be seinen to shoujo, it could be shonen to josei. I just like the catchy pun title, and I will never change it, even if technically it doesn't always make sense. In addition, all of these recommendations will only be ones that have been officially licensed in English with ease of access as well, whether that means physical or digital releases. I just want to make sure that these are readily available to purchase manga that are either ongoing or have been entirely completed. That means that any title that has been canceled by the publisher or never got fully released won't make it into the Making the Shonen Jump to Shoujo series. Unless I decide otherwise, because, you know, I'm wishy-washy. Lastly, these are not one-to-one comparisons. None of these manga are going to be the exact same in every way. It's more just based off of the genre, the tone of writing, or the premise. And I could even say that it's just based off of vibes. Not everything will be a perfect match, so no complaining if you think something isn't close enough. I usually have my reasons if I think something is similar. With all that out of the way, let's get into it. This is part 2 of Making the Shonen Jump to Shoujo. If you liked Jujutsu Kaisen, you might like QQ Sweeper and Queen's Quality. Now, if you know me, you know I do not shut up about this manga ever. Not only have I made a full video about it, but it's also in my top 5, so that's just how much I love Queen's Quality. It's an action supernatural romance manga that has 16 volumes in total and is currently ongoing. Plus, you also have the 3-volume prequel series, QQ Sweeper, which is a must-read if you want to understand anything from the main story. I really don't have any idea why the series was broken up like that and why they changed the name from the prequel to the main story, but just think of it more as like mandatory reading rather than a prequel series. The story follows a high school girl named Fumi Nishioka who has no recollection of the last 10 years of her life. She's been shunned by those around her for being a cursed child because anytime she stays with someone for too long, something bad ends up happening to them. So with no home, no family, and nowhere to live, she ends up in a seemingly abandoned school building. Despite its foreboding presence, she finds it a calming place and ends up sleeping in one of the rooms there, only to be awoken the next day by her soon-to-be classmate and stepbrother to the principal, Kyutaro Horikita. He's a part of the school's beautification committee that regularly cleans the old building that Fumi is currently trespassing in. It turns out that Fumi has also applied to his family's business of sweepers in her desperation for a job. This isn't any ordinary janitorial job though. This is a job where you enter the subconscious mind to sweep for bugs. Bugs that eat away at your sanity until there's nothing left but an empty shell of a person. Kyutaro's family comes from a long line of minesweepers who save others by stopping these bugs from forming, cleaning both their subconscious mind and their physical spaces. Fumi has a knack for this sweeping job right off the bat and is able to join the Horikita's family business. What she comes to find out though is that the memory loss she has may be in relation to the subconscious mind that they clean. There's something inside Fumi that she doesn't know if she can keep dormant any longer. Powers beyond her own comprehension that she must hone her mental fortitude to keep hidden. Otherwise, she may come to harm the family and the boy who she loves that were kind enough to accept her. There's a lot about Queen's Quality that I think would scratch the same itch for Jujutsu Kaisen fans. Starting with the obvious, the action scenes. While it plays less of a role in the 3-volume prequel series, the action gets a lot heavier from the main story on. Due to the fighting taking place in the subconscious mind, it has a lot of room to play around with the fight scenes. It doesn't have to restrict itself to reality, as the mind is able to conjure up anything when they're in a vault space. The characters are able to jump and flip around despite being humans that don't really have any physical powers, as well as being able to form weapons like guns or swords from cleaning equipment. The art also intensifies action sequences with its contrasted inking. It makes the danger and the moments of mental health slipping that much more hard-hitting. You can almost feel the weight of that character and what they're going through due to the heavy black ink, especially if you juxtapose it with the slice of life moments in a series where the characters are just hanging out. Although just because the enemies are heavily present in the subconscious mind, it doesn't mean that the real world is any more dangerous to the Horikita family. Another thing I think JJK fans would love about QQ is obviously the characters. Once again, the prequels are more self-contained, focusing mostly just on Fumi and Kyutaro, both of whom are amazing characters with a lot of emotional depth, making you care about their stories and development right away. However, when you get into the main story, you start to see more and more characters. We get introduced to new factions of sweepers, which helps flesh out the world building even further, as well as getting a couple of DILFs on the level of Toji and Nanami along the way. That's what's really important, as we all know. I have always thought that Battle Shonen fans would love Queen's Quality. It's got all of the typical shonen tropes like the demon inside. It's got great action, great character, and even just a little bit of gore. In the meantime, they'd also get a great story with great messages about mental health. The manga is truly one of my favorites because of how it mixes themes about accepting oneself with just really fun fight scenes. You can beat your depression away with a sword in Queen's Quality. And who wouldn't want to live in a world where you could do that? If you liked My Dress Up Darling, you might like Otamen. Otamen has no waifu wars, no fan service, and no cosplay. So if those are the only reasons you liked My Dress Up Darling, then this series might not be for you. To anyone else who liked this series because of the gender role breaking male lead, then congrats, this series is for you. Otamen is a completed slice of life comedy romance series that comes from the same mangaka as Requiem of the Rose King. I still find it crazy how different these two series are, but coming from the same mangaka. Nevertheless, Otamen is sure to hit the sweet spot for anyone who's looking for a fun series with lots of laughs and a great message. The story follows a high school boy named Asuka Masamune. He seems like he would be your typical manly man. He's the captain of the kendo team, he does judo and karate, and he's the strong, silent type. There's just one problem though. Asuka harbors a deep, dark secret that he doesn't feel he can share with a single soul. He loves all things feminine and cute. Shoujo manga, baking, sewing, you name it. This interest must remain a secret from everyone though, because his mother made him scared to ever be himself. One day, a new transfer student shows up at school, a cute girl named Ryo Miyakozuka who changes everything for Asuka. He practically falls in love at first sight, and this love triggers his passion for everything feminine to take over. Suddenly, he wants to make her lunches every day and give her hand-sewn gifts. But he's worried if he does this, it'll scare her away. However, Asuka soon finds out that Ryo is a tomboy. She's a strong fighter, she's a bit of an airhead when it comes to love, and she doesn't know how to cook. When Asuka finds this out, he's even that much more comfortable with Ryo that she'll accept him for who he is. Much like Dress Up Darling, Otamen also has that theme of being comfortable in your own skin, embracing your passions and your hobbies as part of you rather than something to be embarrassed of. This series does a great job at showing that Asuka can like traditionally feminine things and still be traditionally masculine at the same time. Hobbies are just hobbies and should never be used to put someone down for who they are. Asuka and Gojo would definitely be besties who bond over their shared love of sewing. On the romance front, Otamen isn't that similar to My Dress Up Darling, mostly for the fact that Ryo is a little less of the focus in the series. It's not like she isn't a fun character, because she plays this role of being like the cool, aloof male lead in shoujo. Even if she is a tomboy, she has a very blasé view on the roles that society places on people. Ryo is just herself, and she likes what she likes. Her attitude towards gender conformity is really what helps Asuka break out of his shell even more. If you're looking for a story with a shy and sweet male lead like Dress Up Darling, then I really do think that Otamen is going to be for you. The series is complete with 18 volumes in total, and from what I can tell, it's still pretty easy to find despite being a little bit older from Shoujo Beat. It's just a really fun series that has a lot of wholesome moments between characters in and out of the romance. Even outside of this video, I would definitely recommend this series to anyone who is looking for a good slice of life manga. If you liked The Promised Neverland, you might like Limit. We all love a good series about kids having to survive treacherous situations beyond their mental comprehension, and Limit has just that. The manga is a short 6-volume survival drama series that comes from the same mangaka as Life. I think for anyone who has read Life, you would instantly know that this is going to be a pretty messed up series. There's no aliens or dystopian society like in the Promised Neverland, but the themes of group survival are the same through both. This story follows a regular high school girl named Mizuki Kono. She loves fashion and makeup, she worries about her grades, and she talks shit with her friends. Running in the same social groups as the popular girls in school, she heavily believes in social hierarchies, never wanting to rock the boat so she can keep her place. Mizuki may feel bad for the girls who get bullied in school, but if she tries to stop anyone, she'll get shunned herself. If not doing anything makes her a bad person, then she doesn't mind. She just wants to get through high school. Everything changes for Mizuki on the day of their high school class field trip. The whole class takes a bus to the mountains when the driver falls asleep at the wheel, throwing the bus off the cliffside. When Mizuki wakes up, she's confused and in complete darkness, struggling to find her phone for a flashlight. The sight she sees when it turns on is appalling. Her classmates, from what she can tell, have all died. When Mizuki runs outside of the bus, she finds out that only 4 girls in her class have survived, all of whom have complicated histories and emotions about each other. They're stuck in the wilderness with no sign of help on the way, left to fend for themselves at the bottom of this cliffside until someone realizes that they've gone missing. Clearly, one of the biggest similarities between Limit and Promised Neverland is the genre in which they're both placed. 2 survival dramas about kids facing adversity and learning to come together in a time of need, aiming to show that humans can find common ground when push comes to shove, surviving and living in harmony. Both series have great themes of human nature and overcoming obstacles. However, a big difference between the 2 series is that Limit is much more focused on the human drama rather than the mental mind games that Promised Neverland is. It's more based in reality and it's more about like social hierarchies and class. Limit wants you to think about what's truly important in your life. If social hierarchies or status are everything, and if those get stripped away, then what is actually left of you as a person. Mizuki is a great main character because we get to see her beliefs questioned. She's been a firm believer of social class, but when the cards get flipped, she ends up at the bottom, since another girl is stronger in leadership and survival skills. This girl can make sure that people will survive, while Mizuki can only try her best and make sure she's not dragging anyone down. Also having to deal with one of the girls that her friends bullied now having the upper hand on her as well. The twists in this manga are written wonderfully too. As you continue seeing these girls fight for their place in the group, dynamics keep shifting and new pieces of information come to light. Every new chapter makes it harder and harder to put this manga down. Since this series is relatively short, time just breezes by as you're stuck in the suspense of it all. Limit is truly a fantastic series that is a must-read. Anyone who is a fan of the psychological drama and The Promised Neverland would definitely be a fan of this one as well. The length of the manga makes it no huge time commitment or investment, so it's a pretty easy pickup. I don't hear this one talked about hardly ever, and I really want to change that because it's so good. It's so good. If you liked Komi Can't Communicate, you might like Ron the Peerless Beauty. I live with a certified Komi lover, so I had to check the validity of this recommendation and he approved. Ron the Peerless Beauty is an adorable slice-of-life romance manga that is complete with 10 volumes in total. It's so sweet that your teeth will rot and so cozy that it feels like you're wrapped in a blanket. This is definitely going to be one of those staple romance series that comes from the 2010s for any future generation of shoujo manga fans. It's a simple story premise like most high school romance series are, but the adorable art and characters really elevate it. We follow a high school girl named Ron Takamine who's been dubbed by her classmate the flower on the hilltop. Ron is beautiful, smart, athletic, and she doesn't really talk to many people in her class. Partially because the nickname that she was given by her classmates have made them think that she's unapproachable. She wants to make new friends at school, but the way that people talk about her like she's above them makes her uncomfortable. One day while watering flowers, she has a meet cute with the boy in her class, Akira Sayaki, a bright, refreshing boy who treats Ron just like anyone else. He also has a secret that Ron has come to learn by chance. Akira's family runs a flower shop where he helps his dad out with arrangements, something he's been embarrassed about ever since his friend made fun of him for his interest. However, Ron finds his love of flowers endearing, and the two bond over Akira's shared secret. There really is a lot that Komi and Ron have in common with each other. In the premise, the characters, and even somewhat in the themes of the manga too. Both of the girls in these series have to deal with the repercussions of being placed on a pedestal by those around them, being unable to make friends or enjoy school life like any other high school girl. They both share a secret with another boy in class that helps them come out of their shell, as they overcome their quiet shyness during their high school lives. What Ron particularly excels in is the well-written romance story. The relationship between Ron and Akira is adorable and lovely in every way. Akira's outgoing attitude helps Ron open up, and Ron's kindness makes Akira accept himself for who he is. They both find common ground in their love of flowers, which makes their initial relationship even that much cuter. Learning about flowers together and getting closer at the same time. Romance fans would be missing out by not checking out Ron the Peerless Beauty. The manga is just incredibly heartwarming with cute moment after cute moment. All the characters are very sweet and relatable, and by the end of the last volume, you really just don't want the series to end. Unfortunately, the manga is only available digitally through Kodansha, but it is totally worth checking out if romance is your thing. If you liked Apothecary Diaries, you might like Eccentric Doctor of the Moonflower Kingdom. Okay, so this series isn't actually out yet, but I did want to include it because it's getting released in March. It seemed so interesting when I first saw that Seven Seas licensed it, so I also went to go check out a couple chapters just to validate my gut feeling that these two were similar. And I was right. Any Apothecary Diaries fan would for sure enjoy Eccentric Doctor. It's an ongoing fantasy drama series that's inspired by historical China. That in itself would already make this a very apt comparison between the two. The story follows a young girl named Koyo who works in her small village as a doctor. One day, the prince of the Moonflower Kingdom barges into her clinic asking for someone to save his friend. They've been ambushed on their way back home, and the friend now has severe injuries that could kill him. Fortunately for them, Koyo has some unheard of medical practices up her sleeve. She sews the wound of his friend shut. This method seems revolutionary to the prince though, as where he's from, the only way to heal wounds was medicinal baths. He's incredulous by Koyo's ability to heal his friend, and he wants her to return to the Moonflower Kingdom with him. At first, she refuses to come with him since she already has patients she wants to help in her own village, but the prince tricks her into coming along. Koyo has no idea that she may be stuck in the Moonflower Palace and made to help the people within it. All the while, the prince must deal with someone who may be after his life. Pretty sure from just that story synopsis alone, people who like Apothecary Diaries could already see that connection between the two. From the first chapters I read to get a feel of the series, it doesn't shy away from showing medical practices and explaining them. We see Koyo discussing which herbs help relieve pain, as well as seeing her actually stitch the wound shut. It seems that much of this manga will revolve around Koyo dealing with inner palace patients and flexing her medical abilities for the first time. Even the characters in Eccentric Doctor are kind of familiar. Koyo is very smart and skilled in her profession. However, a big difference between her and Mao Mao is that she's just a little bit more childish. Koyo is dazzled by everything in the palace whenever the prince takes her there, and she's a lot more energetic as well. Most likely because at the starting point of this story, she is just beginning to have more life experiences, while with Mao Mao, she had previous life experiences that kind of beat her down. Still though, Koyo and Mao Mao both have very strong, likable main character energy. The prince also kind of has those don't trust my pretty face vibes that Jinshi does. For both characters, you aren't exactly sure what their goals are, but the story kind of unfolds this as it progresses. I'm super excited for this manga to come out because I always love series where the main character has a profession. It's always fun to see them learn new skills or overcome barriers in their line of work. Of the couple chapters that I read of Eccentric Doctor, it made me really excited to check this one out whenever it comes out. Like I said, it doesn't release until March, so we gotta wait a little bit still, and that's if it comes out on time. Just make sure to put this one on your calendars and look forward to it. If you liked Chainsaw Man, you might like Carnival, in my opinion. again, these have similar vibes, especially towards the beginning of Chainsaw Man when it's not as heavy. Although I also think that Carnival kind of gets heavier in tone as the series progresses as well. Carnival is an action mystery series with an urban fantasy setting. Technically, it has 28 volumes in total, but in America we have 2-in-1 format, so there are 14 volumes in total here. By the time I put this video out, either volume 14, the last volume of Carnival, is either just coming out or is just about to come out. So I'm right on time with this recommendation. Carnival follows the story of a young boy named Nai who is looking for someone named Karoku. All that Nai is really aware of is that Karoku left his bracelet behind him in a pool of red water. He travels to the city in search of him, but soon gets snatched off the street by a nefarious looking woman. She sees the bracelet on Nai and tells him that there's no way that this was Karoku's because it belongs to members of a defense agency called Circus. She continues that Karoku probably stole it and is now dead for doing so. Just before this lady kills him, an explosion distracts her attention and a boy named Gareki drops from the ceiling. At first hesitant to help Nai escape, Gareki lets him follow him with the stipulation that if they escape, he gets the bracelet from Nai. Nai accepts this deal and the two flee from the mansion as the lady starts to turn to a grotesque monster. Gareki is now stuck with Nai as he's extremely naive and doesn't even seem to know how anything in this city works. Wanting to get the bracelet from him as soon as possible, Gareki offers to take him to Circus directly to ask questions about Karoku. Along the way, the two fall into trouble after trouble thanks to Nai's naivete, becoming wanted criminals and getting stuck on a holdup on a train. Thankfully, Circus happens upon the two boys and takes an interest in them. After finding out the secret of Nai's existence, the world begins to unfold, as well as the mysteries of Karoku and who he is. What I find so similar between the two series are the setting and the premise. Carnival follows a half-human, half-monster who has warped memories of his past that we slowly get to find out about as the series goes on. While Denji is more naive in the teenager sense, Nai is much more naive in the young kid sense. Either way, both don't necessarily know much about anything and are easily subjected to being taken advantage of. Nai was just fortunate enough that most of the people he's encountered so far have been nice enough to him, like Gareki. Gareki is a bit rough around the edges, ultimately helping him not just for the bracelet though. There's also mysterious organizations who you're not really sure who you can trust within them yet. Within the first chapter, we're told that a circus member can turn into a monster, so you're not really sure whether you can trust Circus as an agency or not, even when you start to meet more of the members. They seem to have people in the cities underneath their thumb as well, just giving them a little bit of entertainment, and the people kind of let them do whatever. So who knows if they're just using the people they protect for their own gain. Carnival is a great action series and has some really good world building in it. If you were a big fan of the action in Chainsaw Man though, this series might not be exactly what you're looking for, mostly just because the action in Carnival is a little more understated. Chainsaw Man has a lot of hand-to-hand combat, but Carnival definitely seems to have more combat based on magical weapons. However, if you enjoy the premise, the characters, or the setting of Chainsaw Man, then I definitely think you should check out Carnival. There is also a 13-episode anime that you can check out for this series too. Although I've never seen it, I'm not sure how good of an adaptation it is, but if you're not like wanting to commit to a 14-volume 2-in-1 series just yet, then definitely check out the anime first to get kind of the vibe and whether you like it or not. All right, and that is a wrap for part 2 of making the Shonen Jump to Shoujo. I always try to include a bunch of variation for different genres and publishers, and I feel like this time I got a really good mix in there. From cute romances to gritty survival thrillers. If there was any series that you disagreed with, just remember, I'm very sensitive. As with last time, if you have any shonen or seinen series that you want me to find similar recommendations in the shoujo or josei demographics for, then leave those down below in the comments, baby! There will most likely be an eventual part 3, so hopefully I can kind of go through those and see what you guys want to see. That's all for this time. As always, thank you, my hojos, for watching. Riiiight, and I will see you guys in the next video.